MDMA, methylendioxymethamphetamine, controversial substance, commonly used as a recreational drug and nowadays being used and spoken about as a substance that can aid very profound therapeutic processes and help us resolve things like trauma, post-traumatic stress, and deep states of probably depression or anxiety. Well, what happens? What is this molecule? Yes, we are in front of an amphetamine, which makes the molecule an stimulant. It's not part of the expansors of consciousness. It is an stimulant, and it operates with different particularities than an expansor of consciousness. And this is very important to understand in order to be able to use it appropriately in therapy and be careful about the different risks and limitation that the substance in itself presents. Well, this particular molecule is able to switch off what we call the fight or flight response in the brain. There are different areas in the brain that get activated and that get working whenever I understand myself to be at risk. So when I experience something that for me is shocking, which that would be a trauma in different ways, and this happens repeatedly, my brain learns to be in a defensive mode. And this is survival. This is instinct. This is a great ability we have to adjust and adapt to adverse circumstances. So our fight or flight mode is what aids us to survive in extreme situations and in a violent or chaotic environment. When we do not learn to switch it off, all of our personality gets constructed psychologically based on that response. So my whole life, my whole being is a defense and an attack. And this way of being has terrible consequences to my health, to my mind, to my emotions, to my well-being and my integrity. Because when my system is operating from a defensive mode, the hormones and the neurotransmitters that move around and communicate in my brain are completely different than the ones of the state of calmness and peace. And one state brings, through stress, the rise of cortisol and many other chain reactions that start depleting my body from nourishment, all the way up to creating mental, emotional, and physical illness. So when we realize that there is a molecule that can actually and artificially switch off this response, this opens up a huge therapeutic and healing possibility. It aids us to be able to understand ourselves and perceive ourselves from a non-defensive perspective. And in a deeper psychological explanation, what occurs when that response is switched off is that the attribute of compassion can emerge. The observer can raise up and then have an opinion about the situation as opposed to only the victim, which is reaffirmed by the ego defense. What happens in the structure of my bodies is that the filter that contains what we call the astral body, which is the body that gives us emotion or experience in itself, that filter gets erased or eliminated through the suppression of the response of defense in the central nervous system. So when that happens, I now have access to everything that was contained in there. When I suffer trauma, I tend to create a deep separation from my astral body in order to survive. I put away the emotions, the shock of the experience, so I can actually integrate it in different ways through the mind, through rationalization, through justification. And in that way, I don't lose functionality. So when I disconnect the astral body, I dissociate. I am not a whole person. And those are defense mechanisms that we use to survive trauma. So this molecule gives me the possibility to reconnect with my astral body. And in those little details, it is the true and the real potential of this molecule when it's applied in the right set and setting, and when risks are taken into considerations, because as I said, it's a methamphetamine. So it's not like other type of expansors of consciousness. This is the stimulant. So there are loads of things that have to be considered when used or if used. Though it brings for us a real and profound solution to ailments that we suffer every day. And by reconnecting our astral body, by growing inwardly in a perspective of the observer of my life and not the victim of my life, it is that I can restore full health and well-being to my mind, my emotions, and my body. And of course, the therapy with this molecule involves learning how to achieve and attain that state without the substance, because the substance can only be used in particular moments and again sets and settings, and it cannot be something that we are using as a painkiller for the everyday life. But the molecule opens up for me the doorway into this realm. I learn how to get there. How does it feel like? I start making new neuronal connections through that state of observation and not the victim. And then, with the right guidance, I can work towards building that state as a permanent state of being and bring myself into fulfillment. So, here we have the technology of the sacred that opens up the door to a compassionate way of living. It can be a great teacher to remember the way into this compassionate state so that we can build the discipline to live from that place. MDMA.